Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Supposed to start here. All right. Good evening, everybody. So just getting back after a tough day of work. No trades today, but apparently I missed one of the easiest looking simple days I've ever seen in this whole NFP week. We're going to take a look at what happened today and why and what we would have looked for today. And then we're going to take a look into what can happen tomorrow. So at 8:30 a.m., we're going to get into it right now. So at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow, non-farm payroll. This is typically one of the most volatile manual intervention events that we have. And in addition to that, we have the unemployment rate and average hour earnings coming through. So be careful. It's going to be a doozy trading this one, but should be a fun time. So let's get into the charts. What happened today? All right, so on the daily, we're going to zoom into this section. We're still in this premium, and we're still within this zone here. Kind of you see this zone that we've been stuck here and there through the past couple of weeks. As we lead up into non-farm payroll, that's not too far-fetched. I mean, huge economic event. It's natural that we want to set and create liquidity on both ends of the spectrum so that we can take things out and then go the opposite way. So I am seeing that today we created these relative equal highs here. We have we just like I had mentioned at the beginning of the week, I expect that we range a little bit, but always return back to the new week opening gap, which is exactly what we see here this particular week. We don't expect a huge range today this week. Non-farm payrolls where we expect the majority of this move to move. Not to say we haven't had amazing moves. Today was an incredible move. Let's go down though to take a look and see what we have here. On the daily before we leave, I want you to remember we've created these relative equal lows. I fully expect non-farm payroll to take those out at some point. I'm curious to see if it first heads lower, takes these out, and continues upwards, or if it takes out this liquidity, this, and this liquidity, only to take this and then head down to the sell side at the end of the day or something like that. So that's what I'm looking at right now. There's no one directional bias. It's going to take out both. So be nimble in how you scalp and what you take. So let's go down to the hourly chart now. Let's look at today. So this is today's price action here. Let's go back a little bit so we can get a sense of where the previous highs and lows are. So here, we actually can take this out. It's old, but we can see that this high here at 14955.75, this we would have drawn out over time, and we would have treated this as a potential buy side liquidity. And on the sell side, we see that there's this fair value gap, which also came on the hourly. And we're going to talk about this area and this area in depth today, because these were two of the most key high confluence things that we could see today. And we're going to talk about these pink lines as well. Remember, in my charts, the pink lines are real-time hours, and we're going to show you how impactful they are. So let's head down to a 15-minute here, because we see the hourly time. We see that it couldn't get above here. It's struggled to get back and make a higher high for this week, except for here. Today was an exception. And let's go dive deep into that to take a look and see why it was an exception. So let's go down to the 15-minute. So on the 15-minute, so we see that Asia formed a high here right around consequent encroachment of this, and then it failed. It took out this sell side liquidity, went down, further down, came down to not quite, I think it was a low of 14,851, and this low is 14,854. So it just went into this. I don't have it marked here, but probably should. You kind of see how it went straight down into that one, right? So in London, it came down to this area imbalance, continued back upwards, and in the beginning of the day, remember today we had at 8:30 a.m. we had unemployment claims. What happens exactly before 8:30 or at 8:30? I think it might be at. Let me go down to a 1 minute time frame. And let's take a look exactly what time that happened. So this occurs right at 8:07, right? So if you were up since 7 in the morning, you would have seen this approach this buy side liquidity, and you would have also seen this continue down very quickly. So there's a fair value gap that it went into, but it didn't break until we broke this one here. But the problem is on the 1 minute, there's no entries here. So the only fair value gap that gave you an entry was this one here. And it hits again. And then right at 8:31, we drop about, gosh, this would be 40 points down to this sell side liquidity. And this one. And this one. So lots of movement there. But the market hasn't even opened yet. So what are we looking for here? Well, we see this nice juicy candle here. We can kind of see that there's a fair value gap which formed right there. And so we wanted to mark that one out. We had plenty of time to mark that one out, right? We know that it didn't come back up to it. And so we don't FOMO. We see it's taken, it's lost there. So we see that, hey, it could either, we're prepared for somewhere in here for a bearish breaker. It doesn't. It gets a few people short there, scalp for about 20 points. And then we see that it bounces off the old new week opening gap here and continues upwards. So this squeezes some of the early shorts out. Now, if you're patient, you know that this is a bullish or bearish order block here. You see it's got a fair value gap formed right after it. That's one of the highest probability signatures that we know of. And on top of that, I'm going to pull over the real-time hours chart so you can compare and contrast. So in addition to that, you can see that the previous day, remember, we don't know when it opens on the chart. We only know where it ends. That was one of the previous day ends that day. So that is important because we need to know that that's a key level. There's a few confluences there, 3 of them right there. And what happens? We take it, we stop a few people out, and then we continue downwards. So if you were to take it at 1920, the highest heat you would have had to endure was about 6.5 points, which isn't bad. But right at 8:30, that's where we came up. We took out these buy stops, couldn't make it further, and then completely reversed all the way down from 14,920 within the span of about half an hour. From 9:30 till 10 o'clock, you end up giving up 100 points. We would continue to give up 200 plus some points, I believe, but yeah, that's something that we want to note there. And we also note that this was a previous buy side liquidity. If you recall, see that all the way across. Once that happens, we can look for, I would have already been looking, but once that happens, we look for an entry on a fair value gap to the downside if our downside targets have not been taken yet. So that is key. We knew that there are a few that were taken on the lower time frame, but there were some larger ones that had not been taken yet. So another thing that you'll learn about if you study ICT is the swing projection. So it's kind of like magic, okay? So let's say that I wanted to see how far down could this go. So I would take a look at this swing high to this swing low. And I would get a sense of, hey, from a 152, you can't see that very well, but this is 200 here. Look at what it lines up with, right? Lines up with that weekly downside consequent encroachment. But what else does it line up with? That pink line there. What is that pink line? Well, you need to go to your real-time hours to be able to see that. Yesterday, or rather the day before yesterday's close, what did that leave? A liquidity void here. So price needed to go rebalance to that, take some orders there, show that it has continued to reverse, and right when that happens, we see, oops, let me bring this back over here, and then let me maximize this one. So we see that, you know, this is where we would have tried to enter, and we would have taken, our stops would have had to be of this high here. So 8:30 happens, we continue downwards, we hit this projection, we hit this projection, we hit this projection. It's a lot of confluence for targets. So we can see that it hit once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. People are exiting their large positions there. And so then eventually we get displacement to the upside, goes down for one more tag there, and then continues upwards. So that was one of the most exciting exit parts from today. I think that was really the main play from today. We do see that throughout the rest of the day, it would continue and head upwards, giving up all the gains that occurred that particular day and heading back to the new week opening gap. So I have that illustrated here. You can see these lines, new week opening gap, low and high. You can see the projections there. You can see how low it got and then how high it came back up. So it came back to equilibrium and then dropped down a little bit below. So my guess on non-farm payroll, we have now, let me go to a 60-minute. My thoughts are on NFP is that we go take out these. I need to go back and do a little bit of calculation on previous NFPs to see what the measured move is for these. And then I will form my estimation as to how far up it can go. I think I could certainly see something that looks like a rally, and then later on in the day, NQ just drops, but kind of tough to tell on NFP Friday. So let's wait and see what happens. But in the back of my mind, I'm really aiming for those relative equal lows down here. That is very interesting to me, and I've seen NFP enough times to where I think that either it's gonna either it's gonna rocket down, pick up those buys, or send buy orders in during those sell markets, and then take it back up to eventually take out this weekly Sibi low, or vice versa. I mean, we'll see. So I think that's it. I think that's where we ended right around the new week opening gap. Our price is taking us there as well. Everything's pretty much holding its breath for non-farm payroll. So I too will do the same. One thing that I noted though is for those who are using Apex Trader funding, I'm an idiot and ended up forgetting to cancel one of my accounts that I had kind of drawn down earlier. And I forgot to cancel it. So it refreshed at $33, which kind of sucks, but I will try to pass that one too. And, maybe I'll have to not trade it, but, doesn't hurt to have an extra here and there. So that is it from a market preparation perspective. You know what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for these highs to be taken before we see a market drop lower. Outside of that, yeah, I think that's it. I'm hoping to be able to find a good trade tomorrow. Let's see what the chart tells us, though. I'll do the same thing. I'll mark up whatever levels that I do see as significant, and then we'll go from there. So thank you very much for listening. As always, appreciate you and the subscribers. Just have a really great time hearing and seeing your comments, and really it really helps me a lot and gives me motivation as well to do better and to find ways to really provide value for you. So um, hopefully that is helpful. I hope you caught some of that today. If you can trade, if you're like me, you couldn't trade, no big deal. There's always going to be setups. So with that, gonna keep today short, and I'm gonna go do a little bit of charting and see what happened. See what happened in oil. I'm gonna see what happened in Nasdaq, obviously, micro Nasdaq on this chart, and then yeah, I think that's it for today. And yeah, I'm gonna go study. I mean, I have a few more hours of good, solid, good solid concentration left. So get some water, in here, and then let's go. So hopefully you're studying as well. I'm going to be back testing a little bit. That's what I do in the evenings. And yeah, update on the performance accounts. We have, looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that'll pass after Friday close. So there'll be 4 more that pass on that day, and then there'll be 4 more that pass on Monday, and then the last 2 will pass on Tuesday. Which will then bring the total up to 20 performance accounts. I can't get any more, so I will only be trading performance accounts after that point in time. I'm starting by getting some of the ones that are in drawdown back out of drawdown. That was one of my goals, that I started to show some folks that, hey, I'm in drawdown, I can get out of it very easily, but you need to be very disciplined with what you do. So I'm going to try and get the really super low one that that I was expecting would go below. I'm going to try and get that one out too. That's going to require 1 contract of micro Nasdaq work for quite some time. It's going to take some time to get out of drawdown, but if you're going to trade performance accounts, you need to respect the risk there. Until you have scaled quite enough buffer into it, and I mean like tens of thousands of dollars, you don't deserve to be like going full port 10 contracts all the time. You don't need to do that. You can get a couple, 6, 8 micro contracts can easily net you a couple $100 in any given session. So don't FOMO. I will keep you updated. The major scaling is going to happen when I get these accounts individually above, I would say, about probably like about 20-25,000 in buffer. It's going to take a long time to get there, though. So the good thing is that with good risk management, you should never ever be at a point where you're risking the account. Like there shouldn't be a reason why you should do that, especially if you're really be okay with your trades getting stopped out. But you have to do good due diligence to make sure your entries are pristine. So that is one of the hardest things in trading. And yeah, I think the 90% sale is off on Apex later tonight. I have no reason to buy anymore, so I'm not going to get any more. But if you haven't watched the video for how I got those, definitely go watch that. One thing I forgot to mention is that it will, if you want the trade copier that I used, you need to go into Apex, something like investing. You're probably going to get an email about it anyways, but they have a Rhythmic, NinjaTrader Rhythmic trade copier. I don't know if the TraderBait ones have that, but with Rhythmic on my desktop, I have that there and I can use it. So if you haven't looked at the advanced strategy yet, if your bankroll can afford it, I would go with roughly 2 to 4 accounts copied at any given time. Now, if you suck at trading or are new, you should not be buying trade copier at all. You should not use it. You should just focus on one account at a time until you're consistent with trading and you're consistent with your discipline. So with that, good luck. I think that's it for tonight. You know what I'm looking for tomorrow. I know what I'm looking for, and we're going to see this play out. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And let me know if you need anything else. Let me know if I can help explain things better. And always willing to learn, and I will always be here. So good luck tomorrow. I will be up bright and early. I need to make breakfast early, so I'll probably be here recording early on, but I'm probably gonna need to make some breakfast around 7:30 or so. So I'll come back to see what forms right before NFP, and then we're gonna see what forms during NFP, see what kind of key levels we're looking at. Look for signatures that we're gonna reverse, and then go from there. That's the play tomorrow. It's gonna be fast. It's gonna be furious. Don't get caught up in it. If you haven't traded it, just watch. Even don't trade sim until you have your model down and you see your model. That's really key. All right. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night. Get some rest. I'll see you at NFP tomorrow.